the Rabbit Hole That Is Reality Radio podcast. We're here today to cast light across a whole spectrum of topics, because reality really is the ultimate reality show. We're here to show you how deep and fascinating it really can go. As our interests cover and touch many bases, we snapshot the stories that have caught our eye in the news, information that raises eyebrows and questions, and reading the stories between the lines. Looking also at science, technology, discoveries, and the environment, as well as at history, mysteries, strange tales, and the Fortean. Whether you're here in search of knowledge or dipping in for entertainment, we're here as people just like you, passing our social commentary on what inspires and affects us. Welcome to Rabbit Hole That Is Reality, Episode 7, in association with UK Collapse. Thank you for joining us. My name is Kristian and I'm joined by Sylvia Wicks, who should be joining us a little bit later after the break. Now, we have some announcements to make today, so we'll get them out of the way now. Really good ones too. We want to make it as easy for you as possible to listen, to play, to stream, watch and download whatever it is you choose to play on and wherever you choose to listen. rabbithole.thatisreality.co.uk is where you can point your browser now. You have every episode is now available to play, stream, listen, watch and download. We now are available on iTunes, and you can also add our RSS feed to the likes of Miro, Banshee and many more players where you can have your media streamed straight away to your media library and automatically available for you wherever you choose to listen. We really are trying to make it as easy for you as possible to listen to the episodes that we produce and getting the messages out there about the things that people really need to be talking about. You can follow us on our social networks, Twitter and Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter, or follow me on Twitter rather, at Define Kristian and at Sylvia Dragoon for Sylvia. And you can also find us on Facebook. Check out and search for Rabbit Hole That Is Reality available on there. So, where we're going to kick off today, we have many things that are happening in the news lately, and things that caught our eye in the topical news. Check out this. 1 million UK workers are now on 0-hour contracts. Reuters specifically directs agents of the Central Operations Division to cover up information sources from investigative reports, affidavits, discussions with all prosecutors, and courtroom testimonies. Evidence is being literally deleted. 2 10-year-olds have been given a gag order for the rest of their lives. They're not allowed to utter any words in regards to fracking, the process, and the effect that it might have on the environment. They're completely banned from uttering anything to do with fracking at all. Also, England's Public Health Monitor is to scrap a regular report on mortality rates. So Paul McMullen, who used to formerly work for the News of the World, makes interesting comments on privacy on the internet and claims that privacy is only for pedos. The environment, it's easier and cheaper to now send our recycling to West Africa, where it will languish, rather than recycle it, because, after all, it's cheaper, and it makes us more money. Because polluting is really cheaper than doing the right thing. A 15-ton fatberg blockage, that's right, was found under the streets of London. Disgusting, really. Technology material engineers at the Monash University in Australia have devised a method of producing graphene supercapacitors in the same way that we make paper. Interesting. So check out this also. Anyone who sets up a new broadband account will have filters automatically switched on by default that will block all online material that the UK government finds objectionable. As well as banning social networks, banning the web, ban anything and ban everything. Is this really the only method of beating the bullies? And then we're going to look at the Fortean stories that are in the news. All this and much more coming up on Rabbit Hole That Is Reality, Episode 7 today. So we're going to start off with this story because this happens to affect people who I work with as well. This is 1 million UK workers are now on 0-hour contracts. This is terrifying in the sense that a lot of people are now finding themselves in positions where the only way they can get employment is to have a 0-hour contract, which means really you're at the beck and call of your employer. You might not even get called, yet you have to be on call to work at all times, and you'll only get paid for the hours you actually work. Now, imagine you're trying to get a home or a mortgage, or you're trying to confirm your credit history or your hours you work. For those people, it's going to have to be a complete nightmare about how they're going to go about getting improving their income. Now, the CIPD, which is the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development, revealed in a report published this past week. Well, they did a survey really of 1,000 employees. A fifth of them said they're on a 0-hour contract. And the industries where employers are said to most likely be employed on these contracts are hotels, hotel and catering, education, and healthcare. In fact, 27% of the healthcare people they actually spoke to claimed to be on 0-hour contracts. Employers also in the voluntary sector and the public sector. Just confirm that there's more of these in the public sector now as well. Now, the Office of National Statistics also revealed in a report last week, while it says the use of such contracts in the UK has actually risen by 32%, from around 189,000 to 250,000. That's a stark increase when you think about how many people are they're waiting to go to work. They have to spend all day, all night, potentially sat by their phone, hoping that their workplace is going to ring them for hours to do. Now, the CIPD data found that the average work of these 0-hour contracts is only about 19 hours. Now, official use of the contracts is debatable. The government has allowed these to happen. The companies want to bring their working costs down. So literally they factor in, well, what do we think we're going to need tomorrow? My workplace has now started employing such a structure itself. We have what's called a fast system, which literally means you put in on a rota system, you put in the hours that you have free time, and then literally they can call you in and then cite you on the day, saying, well, you said you were going to be free until say 6 o'clock tonight, and now you're telling me you're only here till 3 today. Well, you put down you're here till 6, therefore this is your contract. Colleagues who are obviously under the system, are getting literally screwed over so badly. Now also, McDonald's, which is Britain's biggest food chain, ties 9 out of 10 of its staff now to 0-hour contracts. That's 83,000 workers across its workforce. Other retailers, such as Sports Direct, are also the same. It employs their entire 20,000 person part-time workforce on 0-hour contracts. Wetherspoons, 80% of their workforce is on the same basis. Boots the Chemist is the same. We've found 4,000 workers are on 0-hour contracts. All staff at Cineworld cinemas are on the same. Tate Galleries, all their entire catering staff are on these. Subway, also employs hundreds of staff, 0-hour contracts. National Trust, the same. Buckingham Palace, the same. It's epidemic across the entire culture of the work in the UK now that people, you might have a 24-hour contract. You used to have what was stated, or you might have a 36-hour, 45-hour contract where it was stated the hours you will work to and will work from and to. Now you don't even know whether you're going to have any hours that week based on the business. So literally they're getting people to work for free. Potentially they might not have any hours to do at all that week. Channel 4 have also spoke about this. They did a report this past week that was aired in regards to an Amazon warehouse in Rugby, where the giant retailer basically employs, thousands upon thousands of people worldwide, but they're all on 0-hour contracts, and they're interviewing employees there, and they're actually monitored by GPS trackers actually while they're at work. 10-hour shifts they have to do, and they're only given a 30-minute break, and that 30-minute break they spend often the 15 to 20 minutes of that just walking to and from the canteen. Yet on the way they're actually subject to searches for stolen goods and airport type security checkpoints. And they're penalised for talking to colleagues, taking sick leave, just as my workplace is. They'll penalise you, and also spending too long in the bathroom. You're penalised for that. Financial Times have also spoken about this as well. They've said widespread use of contracts, stating that it allows employers to pay for work only when they need it, at the detriment, regrettably, dead-end road for exploitation. This is exactly what's happening. Exploitation of the workers. We need to get this out there. The trade unions have kind of been they're kind of feigning outrage. And I say feigning because they're just going, it's terrible, while not actually saying or doing anything or raising awareness of it. I mean, this kind of thing has been happening for quite a while. It's kind of endemic across the system. Yet, it seems to be virtually unknown, despite the fact that so many people are languishing in such, effectively, slavery. Their workplace slavery. And what do you think about that? Let us know. You can send a tweet our way at Define Kristian and at Sylvia Dragoon. Let us know. Let your MPs know. Let your people know. Let your unions know. Go to your workplace and say, why are you doing this to us? Spread the message. We can be telling you about this stuff, but until people are actually actively going to the workplace and saying this is absolutely unacceptable, they'll continue to do it. We'll continue to be exploited. Now check out this one here. This is a document obtained by Reuters. It's specifically directing the agents of the Special Operations Division to cover up information from investigative sources, affidavits, discussions, prosecutors to courtroom testimonies. Sources are things like wiretaps, interceptions of data, database of telephone records, which are all been reportedly used to help the authorities launch criminal investigations. But they're now being blocked. They're now being deleted. Now it was Russia Today that reported upon this past week. terrifying, terrible story really, in regards to how what is data, how they investigated an investigation is now being deleted. So when it comes to doing the paper trail, potentially where they've cut corners, no one will ever know. Is this really in regards to, say, recent whistleblowers? They now have no evidence to show the public that these things are happening. Is this really a reaction to things like what's happened with Edward Snowden in regards to the leaks of the NSA, the PRISM, GCHQ, and the other such projects that have come out? And is this the what's the word for it? The reflection of how they're dealing with what eventually has now embarrassed them on a public level? It's the destruction of information that could prove and protect sources. Investigative methods are being blocked. That's just terrible. When it comes to there is a lot of indication that a lot of the agencies in the US, the UK, of course, are endemically linked to a lot of the problems that we're facing as a society and in countries. And the paper trail to document that needs to be proven, or else generally isn't accepted. And even when it is, it's rarely acknowledged. So the fact that they need to be there, that documentation to show what they're doing, the transparency, it's important. But unfortunately, it's swinging the other way, guys. It's swinging the other way. In recent times, Grab Holder is Reality, we've been talking a lot about the fracking and the issues that it's going to have on the environment. UK government has been assured by companies like Quadrilla and many other companies that there's no threat to the environment, there's no threat to human health. And of course, the advisors to the government are the same people behind the organisations that are the ones doing this. So really, it's in their interest to not tell the government what could happen, despite the fact that there are obvious evidence in the US, particularly Texas, and across Australia as well. I attended a talk with Ian Crane. He obviously did 65 locations across the country where he did a presentation on showing the effects and the detriment that's actually happened to the environment in these areas, as well as the people who stand to benefit quite heavily, and the potentiality of long-term goals of it, and how the short-term goals of using it aren't what we're being sold, guys. Okay, this is a story that should be on the lips of many people, particularly those who are interested in environmental campaigns and free speech advocates. Now, this is a sweeping gag order that's been imposed on a family, actually, in fact, a whole residential group, actually, but it kind of focuses, the media's attention is focused on 2 children who have been banned from talking about fracking for the rest of their very lives. I really think that sets a dangerous precedent to what can be done to families to keep them quiet. Here's a quick bit of money, be quiet, don't talk about it ever again. Now, how this story came about, and it's very important to get the context here. A lot of people think this story was very recent, very new, and in fact it isn't. It actually dates back to 2011. It's only now that people have been, poking into the story and want to get details about it. Now, how the story came about, a couple of years ago, the Hallowich family, who are the ones who are at the centre of this very story, their property is actually adjacent to one of the major industrial gas wells. In fact, there's 4 gas wells there, and one of the wastewater ponds, where they've got all this frack fluid, this nasty ass stuff, hydrochloric acid, who knows what the hell's in there, with the water. And in America, it's like swimming pools. It's literally next to the house, containing all the water, what is polluted. And they're just leaving it there, outside. And this is where part of the environmental aspect comes in, because birds are feeding off that, all the wildlife is drinking out of that stuff. Wow, incredible stuff. Anyway, the children said that their own water supply was contaminated. The children were suffering from major headaches, sore throats, burning eyes, lots of issues they were having health-wise. So, understandably, they're seeking a resolution about it. However, they went to court, and in order to get their $750,000 be quiet fee, they were told they have to be quiet for the rest of their lives and never talk about it ever again. So they basically need to get the children out of there, health and safety reasons, and what she argued in court. Even the judge had to pause for thought in regards to the fact that it has to contain the children. If the judge is going, well, I don't really know about that, but James Waits, I think his name was, is what I remember reading in the story, so I don't have it up at all, and he's the attorney for Range Resources. he then said in the court, no, I do apologise, I got the wrong guy here. In the court, the Hallowitch's lawyer, Peter Vorre, told the court that even he had never seen a gag order imposed on children in 30 years of practising law. However, even James Sweat, who is the attorney representing the fracking firms, he says in their position, it applies to the whole family, and we will certainly enforce it. So what, they're going to follow these kids around forever and hope they don't say it? And if they do, what, they're going to take their £750,000 back? $750,000 back? Absolutely incredible story. So yeah, get this story out there, share this with people, because it's absolutely sickening, I think. Now, what is also important about this, guys, is to point out that now it's been 2 years since the proceedings that happened back in August 2011. The company, Range Resources, has separated itself from the comments made by James Sweat in regards to that. They do not believe it applies to children. This is updated since then. And he went on to explain how it's okay, there's no evidence that the Hallowitch family was ever affected by exposure to gas. Really. I'm talking about the environment and the effect that things are having on the environment. Let's just jump story slightly here to a story that was put in the Guardian this past week in the Observer. Damon Carrington, he put out a story last Sunday in the Observer, and there was a brilliant article regarding there's been over 1,000 major pollution accidents in the last 3 years in the UK, and the financial penalties being settled against those companies is virtually nothing compared to the money those companies are making. And that appears to be how those companies are doing it. I mean, it's basically much cheaper to take the penalty than actually keep it clean. Yeah, why put effort into resolving the environmental damage that your company is causing in regards to oil, to polluted water? There's actually going into the fresh water. There's damage in the environment, the banks and the ecosystems, and the ecological life, and then effectively the food sources, the food chain. But they'll just take the financial hit. They'll just take the fine because it's cheaper than solving the problem, cheaper than doing the right thing. And that's what his article covered. It's a really, really deep, in-depth article. Well, he actually followed that up. He followed that up with a blog that has covered that as well. And the revelations are interesting. Nick Cohen, he says, how long is it going to be before the stench of the monopolisation of the exploitation of water, the very stuff of life, reaches the public nostrils? Because the way the public cares about it, if they don't know about it, they don't care about it. And if they are aware about it, most of them will just turn over the TV channel and think there's something else better on TV, or makes them feel better and fluffy about themselves. But these things are affecting our very way of life. Now, the answer is not so long. The water companies are going to find themselves called up into Parliament in the autumn. Joan Whaley, MP, chair of the Environmental Audit Committee, says the EAC will consider whether to call the companies in. So they're going to have a meeting in autumn to decide whether they're going to call the water companies in to explain themselves. The mind boggles. It really does. The mind boggles. And next story on this, that's really more of an environmental story, and we normally tend to keep them together. And yes, it might be worth just jumping around a little bit here. I must have put that in the wrong place. So it kind of comes into the same kind of effect, really, in regards to, say, where recycling is going, material that is not going to the right places. Now, I can remember watching I believe it was Panorama, about 4 or 5 years ago, where one of the investigative journalists on there, he put a letter. And in the letter, he, I think he put a tracking device or something like that in. And he wanted to know what happened to his recycling. And so he literally put it in his bin, and he then followed the process in regards to what happened to the recycling. And the process took him to what he thought would take him to a recycling centre. But in fact, it did, in a sense. But it was kind of sorted, packed up, squared up, boxed off, and sent off to India. Because it's cheaper. It's cheaper than recycling. We just bin it and put it somewhere else. We make the hole, or we make the pile in some country where we might have just paid them off. And this kind of story has come full circle, has come at us again. This was covered on RT this past week. Now, if you have a contract to break down electronic goods, you're supposed to actually break them down into their component parts safely for the environment. However, there's cost in that. And the UK companies who are supposed to be doing that, who are getting paid to do that, aren't doing that. Instead, they're getting paid to put it on a container and ship it out to West Africa. Because it's financially better. They're actually getting paid as a company by the government to provide environmental recycling services. Now, this was Julian Newman from the Britain's Environmental Agency, and it just means they're shipping it out in containers, they're avoiding a fee, and they're getting paid money, and making more money that way. It stays in cost recycling, and they get paid by the government. Hand over fist. You know, sometimes you read this stuff and you're thinking, what is going wrong with this company? What are they doing wrong? Like, how can they not see the effect that they're having? But I guess from a capitalist model point of view, where your goal is to make money at every cost, cut costs at every corner, you know, and trying to keep the same business model going, you know, in a system where you have cyclical consumption, where you have every year there's more and more products out in the consumer market, more and more products in a customer's home, and every year more and more products are then effectively ended up on the waste fill, on the landfills. You know, you have to do something with that. You know, then they're facing an increasing amount of consumer goods being thrown in the bin, thrown out in the waste, and thrown into recycling. So there's only one thing they can do about it: ship off to a foreign country where they don't pay any tax. Okay, this is what's happening. Yay. Go recycling. Go recycling. So how about this story here, guys? Paul McMillan. Now, he is a 7-year veteran of the News of the World. Now, I don't know about you guys, I actually quite value my privacy. I've spent probably the last part of 6 or 7 months now making my PC a little bit more secure. I mean, I'm not a tech expert by any means stretch, but I do consider myself to be an advanced user and someone with technical know-how and understanding. So privacy, I think privacy is very, very important when it comes to the internet. You know, having anonymity, you know, I think it's quite valuable too, in regards to where I search and what I look at. There are quite a few really good alternatives on the internet in regards to using just Google. Gilburu, there's DuckDuckGo, which do not record your activity, and they use open source technologies on the internet to come up with the results for you in a much more non-tracking way. And they've obviously gaining mainstream attention as a good alternative to the likes of Yahoo and to Google. Now, but according to Paul McMillan here, he says privacy is only for pedos. Is that categorising people who putting those who value privacy as a paedophile? You know, and society, of course, you know, we chastise paedophiles. You know, we are very angry against those who abuse children, and rightfully so. But to put everyone who values privacy, protection, and who value that in the same category, I think that sets a really dangerous precedent. And of course, the media love to run with terrifying stories. So the media are absolutely running with this at the moment. They say privacy is evil, brings out the worst qualities in people. Actually, I think it's completely the opposite. Privacy is evil, brings out the worst qualities in people. He says in 21 years of investigating and invading people's privacy as a job, that's what he did, he's never actually come across anyone who was doing it for any good. Now, it is true that people do bad stuff behind closed doors, and people will happily have their discussions behind closed doors about their activities. So, you know, it's one of those things where it's a double-edged sword. You either take it all away, or you give it all to them. You know, do you allow people to have privacy? You saw a recent story how in the Tor network, a lot of the websites were hosted on a server company called Freedom Hosting. The NSA basically started investigating them, and they've handed over all the backdoor keys to the NSA. Freedom Hosting is now gone, and roughly a good third of what was up on Tor and in the Onion network, privacy-wise, you know, where everyone can look at it with anonymity, has gone. It's been destroyed. Also, you find there's an email company over in San Diego, I believe it was, I could be mistaken by that Edward Snowden was using. They've also getting heavily pressured by the NSA in regards to checking his email, because of course he was using privacy security and encryption, and they were the company who were providing that via their email services. They've actually shut up shop. They've actually closed off they've actually closed their business because of the pressure that they're facing. But then you have companies who are resistant to this, and are quite infamously so. Pirate Bay, good example. You know, there's so many places where you can't have access to it. In fact, if you go via a browser to Pirate Bay and its various websites and its various URLs, some of them you can get around. A lot of them you can't. But is there information on there that we shouldn't see? Sure, I agree there is copyright material on there, but it is completely user-generated. If users don't put it up, no one will download it. But at the same time, the person downloading it is responsible for what they're downloading. You can't take that away. And of course, your ISPs do know what you're downloading. They know the size of it, and they know the file names. If your ISP came knocking at your door with the police forces, and they give a list of all the files that you've downloaded, they're going to give you it. Fatberg, a giant fatberg, was found under London, which is a mass of fat. It's festering food, sanitary products, wet wipes, all amalgamated together. Everything that was washed in a toilet, all kind of come together. It was all formed, all amalgamated, all mushed up. And the size and the mass of this thing must have been incredible, because it weighed 15 tons, and it took 10 days and nights to move. Now, one of the guys who worked as Thames Water's contractor supervisor, his name was Gordon Hollywood. He says he's never seen a single congealed lump of lard this big clogging the sewers ever before. It was so big it's actually damaged the walls of the sewer, and the repairs are going to take over 6 weeks. And he says, quite logically, don't put your sanitary items and wet wipes down the toilet. They do not break down. Message is, bin it, don't block it. So play it safe, guys. Do the right thing. So here's a story that caught my eye in the press this weekend. This actually went out in the Guardian. A journalist there called Charlie Cooper put the story out. And that is that death rate reports are being scrapped. This is really strange, don't you think? This is actually sparked by a leak, and it shows there's actually been more weekly and monthly deaths than had been previously been reported. In fact, 23,400 more deaths than what was expected for this time last year, with a 5% increase on the projections. Now, this is kind of strange. This is the Public Health England and the Department of Health both published a report on these figures. And it shows that they're out of sync with each other. They're not correct with each other. So the argument is the reason one of them is being scrapped is because there's two documents publishing the same types of figures. I can understand they're going to be cutting that down to just one. That is actually kind of understandable. But however, when they contradict each other, there's an issue here, because one clearly is either fudging the figures, or the other one's telling the truth, or they're both fudged figures. Who knows? But Jeremy Hunt has been criticised by the Labour's Shadow Health Minister this past week by stating that a leaked report shows that there's an unexplained rise in the number of deaths in old people, and then went on to criticise, as I said, Jeremy Hunt about the fact that they're discontinuing the report. And rather than concerning the content of the reports, their policy is and their decision is to stop publishing them. The embassy is going on to say that there's a 5% increase in the amount of deaths that have been happening. They're putting this down to the fact that it's respiratory diseases, and they say it's flu. It's driven by the amount of cold winter that we've had. We had a normal winter, and also into a heatwave summer. So these are an increase in health is concerning, but it requires proper analysis, which is why the PHE, the Public Health, is actually looking into this data further. However, it's scaremongering to suggest it's a level of poor health care before there's any evidence to support such a claim. Completely agree with that. Let's look at the figures properly. Let's look at the data and find out what the most true report actually is. But perhaps scrapping one of these reports actually will be at detriment. But who knows? Anyway, that's the next story. This is the story now of Hannah Smith. She's the 14-year-old girl who committed suicide last week, and that the papers have been jumping on, the media has been jumping on this story on the bandwagon quite a bit. Now, I can't begin to imagine what it feels like for Dave Smith, who's the father of Hannah, the 14-year-old girl who's killed herself. And now he's begging the Prime Minister to ban the social network where this happened. And to do this, he's created a Facebook page. That's right, he wants to ban a social network, and in doing so, he's created a page on a social network. Far be it, he wants to get it out there, wants the message on board. So, Change.org has also created a petition. There's there's over 5,000 signatures on there so far in order to ban this website. The Facebook page has got over 3,000 likes as well in order to ban this website. Basically he's gone to David Cameron, he's gone to the Prime Minister to have this social network banned. Now, I think they are fundamentally flawed in the way that they're solving this problem. This guy here, understandably, he's in a position where it's very emotional, his daughter's died, and there's a lot of this bullying going on. I personally do not think he's looking for a very quick fix. And here is the problem. The quick fix button is not the problem. Society is the problem. Culture is the issue here that needs to be dealt with, not banning a website, not blocking a URL. That's not the issue, because it leads us on a slippery slope of ever creepy, ever more profound censorship. I mean, there's a story that's been running quite recently, obviously brought out by the Open Rights Group in regards to the internet censorship in the UK, where we're trying to ban pornography, and with loads of other stuff, which is a story we're going to be talking about tonight, as you know, and also what we spoke about last week on Rabbit Hole is reality. Now, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be getting angry about it, because laws apply to cyberbullies too. I mean, laws are there, and they do affect those people out there who are in the troll form, they're in their characters, they're in their avatars, or they're just raging. They are protected because they're on the other side of a screen, and therefore isn't really them. And I think that's a society issue, that people can take on this second persona that cause lots of problems. Now, the truth is, I mean, I know, being a web editor myself and a web admin of a number of websites, simply put, when it comes to the procedures regarding the blocking of abuse like this, a lot of websites simply do not have the resources to police that abuse. It's absolutely true, you know. But generally, most websites have the ability to block IPs. Most admins have the ability just to, if it's a comments website or a forum, whatever, you just block the user, you know. A person puts in a request, block the user, jobs are good. Twitter's the same. You can block people on Twitter, block list. You can stop people following you. Not a problem. The technology is there if it's built into the website or built into the structure itself. You know, also, number two, you've got the abusers. I mean, when we're going to call them trolls or whatever, you know, they're just wind-up merchants. They're not the same thing. People are talking about rape threats, death threats on Twitter, which was in the stories last week in the press. But bullies, you know, now from what I understand it, there's loads of laws that apply to behaviour that can be implemented in regards to online abuse. Now, but I don't think people take enough responsibility when it comes to what their children, what themselves are even doing on the internet. So I think we as adults, unfortunately, in an adult child, you know, dialect there, I think we're just very, very quickly looking for quick fixes, magic buttons. Can we solve the problem? Because I do not want to take responsibility for a problem that I potentially should be involved in and never should have occurred. People don't want that responsibility. It's like, oh, I'll let my kid go to school. It's the school's problem, you know, in regards to bullying or the situations that happen. It's not their responsibility when the kids aren't around. I've seen that happen time and time again with people. It's a social society issue. I mean, it's unfortunate, of course, this girl has committed suicide. It really is a sad story. But if it was Facebook, for instance, and I guarantee you, people have committed suicide, people have had accidents and have done terrible things to themselves because of cyberbullying on Facebook. I don't see anyone chiming in together to ban Facebook. There probably are, actually. There probably is. But you shouldn't just block a website just because something bad has happened. And the newspapers, likewise, will demand that something is done. It's immediate. It must have a quick fix. There must be a quick campaign behind it. Let's drive this happen. The thing is, the problem it's not the technology, it's not a specific website, it's bigger than that. It's the society, it's a social level, it's cultural. You know, as long as bullies' actions don't have consequences, as long as children can join in, as long as adults can join in, or when other people stay silent, you know, when they see this kind of thing happens, victims stay quiet instead of confiding in someone, you know. People are afraid of being a snitch when they've seen looking at it. People don't want to talk about these things. I mean, there was bullying at school when I was there. I certainly was one of them, you know, on both sides. I mean, I annoyed certain people, and I took bullying myself. You know, I've seen both sides of that. So, you know, whether it's Twitter today, or whether it's like Ask today, or it's going to be Facebook next week, it's going to be, I don't know, Buzz that month after, you know, maybe Diaspora soon as well. The problem is they're going to continue on. They're going to continue unless someone doesn't just stand up and say, oh, let's just end this website. I mean, we need to deal with as a society to come together and find a way on how to deal with these kind of issues. I also believe that, you know, it's part of the parents not taking responsibility. Also in the sense of that, you know, now don't get me wrong, I think that there needs to be more that needs to be done and to protect like cyberbullying from trolls. I completely get that, and I believe the first thing people can do is report them to social site admins more easily. I think that should be actually a much simpler process. But the tools are available generally on most social networking sites to block people, to delete them from friends list, delete them from contacts list, and stop them from messaging you. I mean, you can have it set for private only. You can have a whitelist on Twitter, for instance. You can limit the profile or limit what you post to friends only. Put them in different categories. I mean, the truth is, I mean, these websites, Facebook is 18 plus, Twitter is 16 plus. I'm also aware that Ask.com is 16 plus as well, and it's actually a subscription service. Someone's paying for that stuff. Someone's paying for the subscription. So, I mean, the father or those who are the legal responsible guardian of the child should not be allowing their children to be signing up for these things if the content is not suitable. And there's a reason the content is not suitable. It has an age rating. You know, people have to take more responsibility and play a little bit more common sense. We shouldn't be afraid of technology. Technology is amazing, but only when it's done responsibly. And the responsibility lies with the parents. So coming up after the break, we'll be joined in the studio by Sylvia Wicks. We will also take a peek at science and technology, such as how IBM has found a way to program its computer based on the human brain, new advancements in graphene, as well as an update on Ubuntu Edge, the new smartphone, as well as our pick of the Fatian stories. All this and more coming up on the other side of the break.
Join the book club. As an introductory offer, we'll send you the following books absolutely free. Eat, Run, Stay Fit, and Die Anyway. How to Seem Intelligent. There's Big Money in Staying Put. Peace of Mind by Losing Complete Control for 16 hours a day. Your Thighs Control Your Life. How to Fillet a Panda. Rid yourself of doubt, or should you? Chances are your sister's full of shit. How to Give Yourself a Complete Physical Without Getting Undressed. 64 Good Reasons for Giving Up Hope. Why Jews Point. 100 Dead People Nobody Misses. Backpacking for Shut-ins. My Dog is a Real Fruit. Your Shoes Are Worth Money. Reorganizing Your Pockets. What to Wear on the Toilet. 124 Simple Exercises for the Teeth. The stains in your shorts can indicate your future. Tips on Getting Laid. Self-mutilation as an attention getter. 600 Ways to Give People the Shaft. Tremble Your Way to Fitness. You give me 6 weeks and I'll give you some disease. And if you join today, we'll send the following books absolutely free. Poems for the Insane. A treasury of poorly understood ideas. Apartment Hunting for Devil Worshippers. A complete list of all the things that are still pending. And these books on food are yours. The Intravenous Cookbook. The Meaning of Corn. Fill Your Life with Croutons. The Food Coloring Diet. Cooking for the Paralyzed. Cooking with Heat. And if you join today, we'll send the following books absolutely free. Controlling Fear Without Getting Frightened. Things No One Can Help. Understanding People You'll Never Meet. 6 Ways to Fuck Up Before Breakfast. Marriage for One. I Suck, You Suck. Let's Change the Alphabet. Famous Bullshit Stories. Sport Fishing with Power Saws. Why Hawaii and Norway Are Not Near Each Other. And if you join today, we'll send the following books absolutely free. A list of people who mean well. Don't Throw Away Your Old Skin. 10 Things We Don't Know Yet. Caring for the Seated. The Wrong Underwear Can Kill. Trotting Across Zaire. Why It Doesn't Snow Anymore. The complete list of everyone's personal effects. 6 cities no one has ever been to. I Gave Up Hope and Died and It Worked. Famous People Who Were Wiry. The Lives of 6 Extremely Short Saints. Anime Wong's Tits Are Made of Aluminum. And if you join today, we'll send the following instruction books absolutely free. How to Do Everything at Once. How to Give People Your Best Regards. How to Spoil Other People's Fun. How to Kill a Rat with an Oboe. How to Organize a Tupperware Gangbang. How to Wave Goodbye Without Moving Your Arms. How to Spot Truly Vicious People in Church. How to Get Back from Boston. How to Lease Out the Space Inside Your Nose. How to Get a Tan with a Flashlight. How to Start a Range War. How to Spot a Creep from a Distance. How to Give a King a Really Hard Time. How to Kill Your Nephew. How to Become a Greaseball fall, and how to turn unbearable pain into extra income. So call now, right now. Join the book club today.
The rabbit hole that is reality. Across the spectrum of topical talk, news that raises an eyebrow, science, technology, the environment, mysteries, strange tales, and the portia that is both informative and entertaining. As you spread our wings and catch our stride, you can find us now on the web, rabbitholethatisreality.co.uk, where you can listen, download, and watch all the episodes produced so far. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/rabbitholethatisreality, or follow the presenters on Twitter at @DefineChristian and @Sylvia Dragoon for commentary, insight, and conversation. This is the rabbit hole that is reality. Hey guys, thanks for sticking with us. My name is Kristian Lander. This is the rabbit hole that is reality, episode 7. I'm joined in the studio by
Sylvia Wicks. Finally, I'm here.
Hey, good. You finally got out of work and you're finally back here in front of the mic. Good stuff. Right, so Sylvia, my God, what have you been up to?
Well, I've been up to a few things, but been looking through this story.
And what story is this? What's caught your eye?
Oh, this is the tonnology story. It's about a new type of graphene that some engineers in the Monash University, they've actually managed to make a type of graphene that will, I want to say conduct electricity, but that's not right. Like a battery, it stores energy.
Basically, and I've seen this story as well, really, it's not about storing energy. I know it does store energy, but it's the way it stores energy that's very different. It has a higher capacity. The way it does that, literally, it layers carbon atoms on top of each other. And these supercapacitors are 10 times more energy dense than any commercial device out there at the present time. But the way I've actually put it together, it's quite novel.
Yeah, apparently they did it the same way that they make paper, which traditional paper, by the way, which I think it was called papyrus, and they sort of mush it up. I'd be very interested to see how they do that.
Yeah, it's going to be cost effective to drive out new commercial products for it. Now the question is whether you're going to have companies actually go for this new commercial kind of products, because you're talking about when new technology happens, when new inventions happen, there's a period of time before there's been any.
They'll come to the public.
Yeah, there's a certain time. Yeah, there's investment, there's development, there's R&D, there's the potentiality. All them kind of not surveys. What do you call them? Basically, it's part of the research process. Where you're getting all these solutions coming up, companies going, well, what can we do with this technology?
Yeah, they'll have a testing period before they'll say whether or not they want to use it.
It's going to be a while before anything like this ever hits the market, certainly on a consumer level. Perhaps on an industrial level. The potentiality of these really is like integrated circuits. You have transparent electrodes, which is going to be really interesting. Solar cells that they can be used to make. They can be used for gas detection, single molecule. There's I saw some stories the other day.
Hey, if you had a solar panel and it was collecting onto this graphene substance, onto this new battery,
it's been absorbed by it. Light will be absorbed by it. Yes.
Yeah, then you could store a hell of a lot more.
Well, that's right. The ultra capacitors is what's now being termed as, and there's the issues with it. Really, it comes down to electricity. I saw quite a lot of blogs going, it's going to be amazing, I can charge a battery in about 5 seconds and stuff, or 20 seconds, or my battery in my phone will last me now 2 weeks, which is the story that kind of hit the headlines. Realistically, that's not actually going to happen. And the reason it won't happen is, imagine how much stored energy there's going to be in if you've got a phone, right, you've got a brand new phone,
yeah,
and you've got this kind of battery in the phone, how many watts is there going to be in there? If in terms of fire safety hazard, potential is it's going to blow up next to your head. It might take your head off with it, in regards to how powerful it's going to be. The danger.
I suppose that's why they need a testing period, because then they can see how much it needs, and they can make it smaller and lighter, which is probably what they were going for here when you make this sort of substance. Things are getting smaller.
Well, they are getting smaller, but it's like the dangers of lithium-ion batteries. They're causing fires as it is now. There were stories when I think it was not the S3, but it might have been the S2. Basically, what was happening was that if you had the Wi-Fi for X amount of time, the battery would get so hot it would cause it to spark at the back. massive bang. There was quite a few burns happened over in China. Now the UK ones, to my knowledge, I didn't see any reports of that happening here. Just stories on the web. Now this could potentially be like 10,000 times worse. I mean, it's like what is it? 220 microfarad capacitor. This huge bang, next to your head, and all the energy is going to be discharged in a second.
I think we heard in the last one it blew somebody's ear off.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. Having it as a phone battery,
Maybe not. Actually, now you say that, I don't.
I mean, but
That might not be safe.
if you can scale the battery size down, if you could scale the battery down to say, I don't know what, say 5 millimeters each way, as opposed to that big ass block in the back of your phone.
Oh yeah, that could be workable.
Because that way it has the same capacity as the current battery.
Yeah,
but the battery
it takes
is
up
small.
a lot less space.
Yeah, so potential is then you've got technology that can be worked to much smaller levels. Now I've seen stories regarding this, trying to get it out for replacing glass, again on smartphones, on TVs, loads of stuff. And there was even a story what says, I think it was one of the extreme examples of how good graphene is, and the relevant reference was it could balance an elephant on the size of a pencil head, and so if you scaled it down on the pressure before it cracked. And I was like, well, okay.
Seems a bit extreme.
I think that's an extreme example. I was just trying to show how strong it is. But I was thinking about if they use graphene to make the transparent glass in say things like submarines and submersible vehicles, they can handle much denser pressure.
Yeah, they could. Oh, especially those ones that go right down deep into the ocean. They wouldn't have to be mostly metal anymore. You could have like a whole glass top made out of this substance.
Well, potentially, yeah. You can have much higher density graphene or transparent graphene.
They might even be able to go down further.
Well, I mean, obviously the Mariana Trench is 7 miles deep. Oh, we went down there. I think it was in the 70s. There was two submersibles went down there, and they haven't happened since. Oddly enough, I think they've sent like probe kind of things since, but I know no humans have been back down there.
No, I think the pressure's too much for humans currently.
Yeah.
That's why they won't send anybody down there.
But yeah, who knows what could happen with that kind of technology being put and implemented. Really good stuff. I mean, I'd like to see how it develops, but again, it's a case of will anyone invest?
Oh. They made a clothing substance out of this graphene at one point. Yeah, it was supposed to be a really stretchy substance. Like it could actually fit anybody, and you could not make it yourself. Well, sort of make it yourself. But if you had like a sheet of it, then you can make your own clothes out of it really easily because it'd stick to itself.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, so in the graphene, literally, it's like stacked carbon atoms, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
That's why it's so strong.
Yeah, it is. It's really, really strong stuff. I mean, and talking of technology, science, developments. I mean, there's this really fantastic story coming out of IBM that was reported this past week. It's a continuation of a story, in fact. And I'll give you the background on it. They, I think it was back in 2011. It was around August time. IBM put out a press release that they developed a computer simulation based on the human brain. And I can remember reading that in New Scientist, and that really intrigued me. The problem was they had at the time is because you'd have so many different sources. And the same way the brain works, right? The brain has so many different parts, so we don't just really know how they link together. We know they're connected by neural links, but we don't really know how they communicate and how they pull resources and pictures and images and sounds all the time.
Not as yet. We kind of know where they pull them from, but not really how.
That's right. So now imagine you've got a computer chip. How the hell do you write a programming language for that? To source from lots of different locations. That's been their problem, and that's actually what they've been announcing this week. So they're calling it cognitive computing. That was the name of the chip that they produced in 2011. You have to bear in mind technology is also developing on that. I mean, even business computers and these kind of developments are still happening on Moore's law. What was released 2 years ago in their development, their chips are still being developed even further. So based on the chips developed in 2011, they found a way now to program them. Now, let's give a rundown of what these chips that they actually had on them. I mean, the cognitive computing. They had a synapses, much like the human brain, have 45 nanometer transistors, crisscrossed wires that acts like the chip's memory, had 262,000 synapses, cross wires. each electrical signal crossing a synapse has an energy consumption and how it works and how it breaks down. And basically, they were saying that it can actually handle 100 trillion synapses consumes only just 1 kilowatt of power.
Oh wow, that would be
100
seriously
trillion.
efficient chip.
Computer program. So that the power, supercomputers, you can put that on a supercomputer on a chip, a single chip. That could revolutionise everything. But until now, they haven't been able to program it. Because they had no idea how to even begin programming it.
Sorry, so they made this prototype, but they didn't know how to program it until just now.
Not just now, but relatively recently.
Oh.
And again, like I was saying, so the human brain having to pull resources from here, there, and everywhere. We don't really know how that works, but it's taken until now for them to write an algorithm and a program to how to rewrite the rulebook, as it were. I mean, when you talk about writing an operating system, that's fair enough. But we're talking about actually writing how the chip actually works. Completely different kettle of fish, completely. So they've had to come up with a completely new way of programming. And it involves the computer telling different chips how to work at once. But these correlates will actually work together to work in joint networks. So they'll be resource based. So different parts of the chip will have different resources, and so the brain does. And how them calls it, in fact, will be writing their own solutions. So should you, I mean, and there's basically a way to try and describe that. If you're doing a search on the internet, it goes to Google or whatever, you kind of find how it pulls data and pulls resources in. It works the same way, but on a single chip.
I think I see. It does sound really complicated to write programming language too.
It's called IBM's True North program. That's what it's called. And the idea is that it's with less power hungry than a normal chip, and it could one day replace human reflexes in self-driving cars and power sensory systems of a robot. Now that kind of piqued my interest. I mean, the robotics have kind of been interested in me since I was like a teenager, and I've kind of been following some of the public DARPA stuff, following like UCLA's developments, and certainly Japan's stuff. Japan's so much, because the robot culture is actually part of their culture. It's not just something they develop; it's actually part of their culture. Like Toshiba, for instance, they hold this annual.
They have that robot show, don't they?
Every year, yeah, where all the robot developers around the world actually come and show off what their robots can do. And it's like Comic-Con, but for robots.
Yeah, I remember watching that, seeing that one that they made a chip where the robot could sense where things were, so it never actually bumped into anything.
Yeah, that's right. And the depth perception is happening, and some really, really cool stuff. There was that Toshiba's own robot. Effectively, it found its way to navigate stairs properly. Huge like a let off, and the software for it is actually a lot of it's open source. So a lot of them are actually working together while still being opposite companies. Yeah. Really fascinating stuff.
Well, it all makes sense with something as complex as that.
Absolutely.
Imagine this chip added into that.
Oh yeah.
You imagine what would happen.
Yeah, because can you imagine trying to debug this stuff? I mean, sometimes I sit there looking at HTML trying to debug my own website, and I'm just sitting there scratching my head sometimes, going, "This is like basic to some people." And imagine debugging, a programming system. That's like a chip, let alone an operating system which running on it. Ugh.
Well, that would be seriously. I couldn't do that.
Well, no.
I can just about do HTML.
Just about, yeah. Okay. Fascinating story. So yeah, that's up on New Scientist actually this past week. All right. So what else caught our eye? Yeah, Ubuntu Edge. This is doing phenomenally well. It's doing so phenomenally well. It's actually the largest crowdsourced project in history.
Yes, we've been watching this one. This new phone from Ubuntu looks amazing. It reached, was it 3 million in 2 weeks?
2 weeks, they made it in about a few days. The problem is they've got 10 days left at the time of recording to get the rest back, and they've still got about 2/3 to go.
Really?
Despite the fact that it is the highest crowdsourced project in history ever, they've only got a third of the funding that they actually put it forward. I think it's 32 million. It's 21.5 mil. They actually are after to develop this. Now, for those who don't know what Ubuntu Edge basically is, it's a regeneration smartphone. I say regeneration because smartphones are limited in the style that they're usually limited to Android or limited to iOS. I mean, BlackBerry and some Symbian stuff. but put in a PC operating system. It's basically part of their convergence program. It runs on your phone. You take your phone, you put it into your USB socket, and literally your phone is also your PC.
Yeah, which will work really well with Ubuntu.
Yeah, you take your phone with you. You know, your phone is your PC. I mean, you got Android now. It's
kind of like an operating system.
Well, it is operating. It's based on the Linux kernel, but it's still very limited in regards to. Sure, you can run apps and stuff, but it's not really a PC. It's a very scaled down system. With Ubuntu, obviously it's a full OS, and either you can literally jack your HDMI cable into the back of it, plug it into your HD TV, and you got Ubuntu TV. You put it into a PC monitor, you hook up a wireless keyboard and mouse, you have a full-fledged PC operating system. Doesn't matter what it connects to, it's there, all running at once. And not only that, it's the most powerful handheld by far on the market.
So what it is it'd be like taking a true mobile PC around with you everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, imagine the opportunities for business and enterprise and stuff, where instead of having to, you take pictures on your iPhone or your iPad or whatever, you go to the office and you download it, or you cloud source it, or whatever. Literally, your phone is your PC. Everything's networked.
So you don't need to do that, because you can just save it on there.
Yeah.
You just take it in.
I mean, so the idea is they've got, the last time I checked, there was 9 million, I should look earlier. So yeah, so you got 9.56 million. That's 30% of their target. I really hope they get it. I mean, the Telegraph was everywhere that's looked at it has gone, this is going to be phenomenal. But they're a bit ambitious with that number. But I guess you need that kind of money to launch a product like this.
Yeah, you do, because they got to develop. I mean, we saw the prototype of this, and it didn't even have any electronics in it yet. It was just the model of what it would look like in the outside.
Yeah, because the idea is you could put the Ubuntu phone as an image onto an Android phone, like the Nexus 7 and stuff. So you already have the Ubuntu phone is available, and literally you can download the image, you put it on your phone, and it runs. All the different swipe signs of your phone are all new and all intuitive. But the phone itself, they're actually developing, calling it the Edge, and it's got 8 megapixel camera, it's got 2 megapixel front camera, it's got a sapphire crystal front display, it's running at Super HD. So let's looking at what it has down here. When the Telegraph gives it a good rundown of actually what it is, saying it's going to be the first in the market. Yeah, it's going to be nothing on the market is as powerful. But again, it's the same thing where you have they're criticising the fact that 32 mil is really hard to get from the crowd audience. That's true. I mean, you're talking about a level that's far above anything else that's ever been raised and crowdsourced.
That's far above anything that's ever been asked for crowdsourced.
And yeah,
I think that the most ambitious one that we've been keeping an eye on will be Star Citizen.
Well, no, Star Citizen only asked for 2 million, but they've got over 10.
Yeah, that's what I mean, because they kept it going, and they got from 2 million, and then they went up.
But there was the Pebble. I think Pebble Watch got around 10. That was quite famous. Well, that's actually quite famous. It is quite famous. They got 10 million, but that was their stretch goal. So how this goes forward, I mean, I think people really need a true alternative. The thing is, it runs Android as well, because obviously Android runs on Linux. Ubuntu is Linux. I mean, all Android apps work on it anyway.
Well, yeah, of course, because Linux is the open source software, and Android runs on the same thing, so they gel quite well.
They do, yeah. But it's not just a facade. It's not just a fascia, as it were. It's a full PC OS. So you stick it in your PC and stick it in a HDMI slot, and boom, PC.
Yeah, it does look amazing. I really hope they actually make their goal.
I mean, you can put down like £5 to like 10,000 if you wanted to, and more. But what was really impressive, they actually got 5.8 million per day, I think, or so, within a matter of 2.2 million within 24 hours. They got over 5.8 million the rate after 4 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing it slowed down a bit then.
Yeah, well, they're making $1 million a day in terms of their backing. So hopefully they get it. Got 10 days to go. Really want to give us some support and give a big shout out. Oh, this is really pissing me off. So what they're doing to all of us, all the internet users in the UK right now, are they have to protect us. They have to provide us with a level of protection, because basically They want to protect us, and rather protect our children. Make our
Yes.
children safe from pornography on the internet.
So we must protect the children.
It still comes down to what George Collins said: child worship. Child worship.
Yep.
We have a
Yep, down
we have
right
a
on
society of child worship.
I think that's damaging more kids than ever, but that's
I
another point.
personally think it's a sophisticated form of child abuse, but that's my opinion. But yeah, so the way that they want to protect us, the way they want to protect our children, is to basically put an outright ban on what you can look at on the internet. And this is obviously it's pornography, so does that mean you can't even search the word sex? It will just say, admin rights, you are banned. Is it the ISP is banning it, like it did Pirate Bay, or is it that the fact you can't search for it and you have to type in an admin password to go and look at it? I don't really quite know how it's going to work. But obviously on the next tab, there's all the other subjects that blocked as well. Esoteric material, web development, web circumvention tools, terrorist history, loads of stuff that really, really affects me because I like to look at this material. In the sense, I like to know how to secure myself on my PC, and I also like to look at esoteric material. I like to because I want to know about history. I want to know about mythology. I want to know about the ancient gods and stuff, the stories from old, which have such relevance to us today. It's come through history. The Norse gods, for instance. I mean, I can't go and search for that shit. When it comes to like the Egyptian gods, I can't go and search that. It's considered esoteric material. What the fuck? Anyway.
No, apparently you can't.
Well, potentially not. So
Can't do that.
they
It's
want
not
to.
English.
Well, yeah. So they want to have family filtering. This is what we're talking about. Family filtering, guys. So 95% of the households in the UK are going to have this filtering system for the internet, and the smaller ISPs are the ones now getting slammed, and they're expected to follow suit. And the government is now putting in legislation if the self-regulatory agreement doesn't work. So
that means that the government can come in and say, "This is what we want you to do,"
No.
and you have to follow it.
It's not just a case of, well, you'll do what we say. It's you will comply. It's the change in language.
Oh yeah, no, I get that.
Okay. So self-regulatory means that they've gone BT, Virgin, TalkTalk, and all these internet products. You make sure you provide this. All these other ISPs provide this service. This is what we want from you. And if they don't do it, if they don't provide anything that's adequate enough, they will legislate it. And they're saying now by the end of 2013, anyone who signs up for a broadband account will have filters switched on their PC automatically by default. So if you get your PC next year, you get your nice Windows 8.2, whatever it's going to be called. Good luck looking for anything on the internet.
Yeah, and be able to find the stuff that they approve of.
That's right. You're going to block all online material that the British government seems to be objectionable. I think it's
Yeah, the fact that it's the British government finds objectionable.
and the
It's not
system.
what people find objectionable.
And they're saying now that it will extend to all existing users by the end of 2014. So this comes then back to what I think is going to be the government gateway system that already exists out there. Hey, you have to go through direct.gov, in order to access the internet. This is something they've already been trialing right now. So you have to go on there, you have to sign through the government gateway, then you have access to the internet. So really, it's going through a filter level. So that means any email, any traffic, any information going in and out, they have complete access to. It's not that they don't already. There's certainly things like GCHQ, all this backdoor stuff, where they're watching what we're doing. But this will mean all real-time trafficking goes through this server, or goes through this, system.
I don't like the idea of that. I really don't.
It's not just pornography that's getting blocked, guys.
Yeah, there's so much more, so much. It will affect you. And you'll go looking for something that you thought would be there, and you found before. If you get this filter system, you won't find it.
What would you if you're someone who's looking for say sex advice? It's got sex in the title. You got to look at this.
Yeah, if a young person was looking for like say sex advice, or where can I get where can I get contraception, or what are the dangers, or anything like that, they put that in. I'll say no, you can't look at that. That's not right.
Yeah, you can look at esoteric material. Oh, you want to learn about the Hindu gods? Fuck you.
Yeah.
No, it's esoteric.
You're clearly not thinking right.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of get the thing about advertisements, and I kind of get the thing about, you can't go to jackdaniels.com and stuff. Yeah, for information, alcohol, drugs, and stuff, you know. But it's stuff like controversial political views. If it's not government authorised, you can't look. And therefore...
Well, that was one of the things, wasn't it? One of the things that they were blocking, it was, not contradictory. It was if it was against the status quo of the system.
Yeah. Imagine trying to look for, like, what is climate change. You're only going to find the government authorised stuff.
Yeah.
As opposed to the other scientists what are going, yeah, but it's happening elsewhere in the solar system too, it's not just happening here. So therefore the issue is solar, not just Earth-based. But what we're doing on Earth isn't fucking helping.
Yeah, exactly. You won't be able to see that anymore.
No. Right, so yeah, man. Crazy world we live in today. You know, sometimes if you don't have a sense of humour about things, like Vinny Eastwood says, you're going to go nuts. And yeah, it's almost hard not to go nuts about some of the things, because unless you have anger, unless you have some kind of frustration, or, you know, a need, a want, a passion to have this information out. Now, I don't know about you guys, I really love like the zombie genre, the idea of having a bunch of survivors, you know, trying to defend themselves against hundreds upon hundreds of flesh-eating zombies that want to eat your brains. I mean, I can remember being a kid, you know, Mum doesn't know this, but I can remember watching like the George Romero films like on BBC Two late at night on a uncut night. It was brilliant, and it kind of really kind of fired up my drive to watch zombie films. I've been kind of watching them ever since. And like, you know, even more modern classics. I mean, even the cult film like, you know, Shaun the Dead, a complete homage, you know, for the classic zombie films back of the 60s and 70s. The Night of the Living Dead series, I mean, the more modern retake of, you know, Dawn of the Dead, and you have Day of the Dead remake, and you have, like, video games as well, Resident Evil, Dead Rising, Dead Island, you know, the concepts of being in that situation, and films certainly take it to a level where you can look in and try and watch how survivors do it. I mean, like, Walking Dead. Everyone loves Walking Dead. Even though, oddly enough, the main character that everyone seems to love, it wasn't in any of the original graphic novels. Right. Anyway, so yeah, over on FrostClick today, if you head over there, frostclick.com, you can download via frostwire.com. Brilliant short film from Trevor Wild. Smith & Wild Films have produced a short film called 8 Days Later, of course taking inspiration from 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later. Has this whole kind of eerie ambience to it as well. Really, really good, really, really effective. So, you got typical zombies, you know, one lone soldier, he's ripped off his badge, you know, America's down, America's fallen. And it kind of has this really cool indie music going off in the back, kind of a little metal, a little scream music, a little rock, mainly modern day indie. And the soundtrack really kind of captures the raw environment, the fact that he's fighting for survival. Absolutely love it. And obviously he's got his full soldier gear, you know, he's got his M4 machine gun. You know, clearly is an experienced soldier. You know, how he takes down zombies and what he does, and the kind of film is about him running, you know, it's about him being chased, going to a house, you know, finding out what's there, and if he gets, well, I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but basically he gets his leg gets clipped, and of course all zombies walk the same, and of course even soldiers with a bit of a damaged leg look a bit like zombies. Anyway, I want to let you guys watch this awesome film. I recommend you check it out. Go to frostclick.com and you can download it via FrostWire. Plus, also, you can watch it on your browser as well. The film's called 8 Days Later. That's from Smith & Wild Films. And go and watch that out now. Really, really good film. So let's take a look at the 14 news. Let's kind of wind it back a bit and have a bit of a laugh, a bit of a giggle at some of the crazy stuff that's happened in the news this past couple of weeks. My God, there's so much out there that just makes you want to just laugh so hard and just go, what the? Why? Well, check out this one, Sylvia. I'll let you have a read of this one. Ooh, here we go.
Oh yeah, the thief threatens to block mum on Facebook after she tells him off for stealing jewellery from another woman. So, he actually had an argument with her on Facebook and then said, "Right, Mum, I'm blocking you. This is why I don't have you on here." Because she told him off. She's like, "Well, I'm sure that woman didn't want her jewellery stolen either, but you did it anyway."
Yeah, he was found guilty for, like, what was it, 1,500 quid worth of jewellery or something he got, and then a picture of him appeared in the paper. His mum took a photo of the newspaper article with her son in it.
And he decided to go nuts about having his photo taken.
Yeah, he was saying that it breached his human rights, and there was some story that he might take his mum for compensation or some shit. But then you get busted for ripping people off, and your mum tells you off in a public place for all your friends to see. Yeah, you can't help it.
It's true. I think they've probably already seen from the newspaper that.
But can you imagine your son getting arrested, right? Well, if I was to steal something in front of her, I would be quite embarrassed if my mum took a picture of the news article. Look what my son did.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see her point of view as well, though. She'd be like, look what my son did. I'm so ashamed.
Okay, so this story here, this should not be funny, but it is funny, and therefore it shouldn't be funny. But I find it funny, therefore it should not be funny. Right, this is the fact that a man was ordered out of bed by 18 armed officers holding a TV remote in his hand. His name was Keith Abrams, I think the story said. He's a forklift driver. He was in bed. He was asleep. He nodded off. And the next thing you know, he's getting ordered out of bed at gunpoint by 18 armed officers. You know, brandishing MP5s and stuff.
Because he had a TV remote in his hand.
Where's your logic? You wake up and there's like 18 police officers looking at you.
Well, imagine what you must be thinking. You're like, am I still dreaming? Oh my god, I'm not.
Well, I'd be thinking about dreaming. I'd be, okay, how do I deal with these guys? Right, I take his legs.
He probably wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah, basically what it is, basically his partner suffered a panic attack.
Yeah, and they called a paramedic.
Well, she called a paramedic, and while treating her, the paramedic saw him laying there with the remote control in his hand, and then reported it for being a gun.
This was because it was under the bed, wasn't it? He saw it poking out.
I don't know.
But I don't how do you mistake a... I mean, they've got I've seen a picture of the remote. It's just a normal remote. It doesn't even look like a gun. And how do you mistake that shape?
I could understand if it was dark or whatever, perhaps it was silhouetted. Yeah, it looks like... But if you're holding a gun, it looks like a bar. So if you're holding a remote control, it looks like a bar. If you're holding a gun, you're going to hold around the handle with your finger on the trigger.
Yeah,
so you can see that it's different.
Shape.
Imagine what the paramedic was thinking. Oh my god, he's got a gun. Shit, he's got a gun.
Yeah. If you're going, oh my god, if I don't treat this woman properly, he's gonna shoot me. And maybe the paramedic had a long night or something. He was tired and couldn't see very well.
It's a gun. Right? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just shouldn't be funny, but it is funny, but it isn't. Therefore, it shouldn't be.
So, what town did this happen in? Because this happened in the UK.
Of course, it happened in the UK. I think it was like London or something. Everything happens in London. Hereford.
Hereford, yeah.
Alright, I think the coup de grace story this week has to be, guys. In fact, there's two stories, right? There's actually another one I can remember seeing earlier. I'm going to tell that one first. Right, it's basically... I love the paranormal, right? I love the stories and the theology that goes around it, you know, the kind of experiences that people have from an anthropological point of view. But this story just made me chuckle. Now, in Sweden, right, there's a gang going around dressed as ghosts.
What?
Are
they dressed in white sheets or something? They are, aren't they?
Yes, sir. Yeah, people in Sweden have been talking about it's Stockholm, I think it is. People are walking around the streets or whatever, breaking into houses, dressed as ghosts and stealing their wallets and stealing their gear. Police have said they're warning tourists to look out for people dressed in ghost costumes because they can become potential victims of pickpockets. I'm pretty sure you're going to notice when the KKK is walking down the street.
Yeah, I think you would take notice of that.
So it says that the thieves are finding and inventing new methods.
You know, what is it? Are they going to be like, we dressed as ghosts because we thought if people thought we were ghosts, they wouldn't report it.
You can't imagine there's that South Park episode where Cartman tries to cross the stage, but he thinks he's invisible.
Oh yeah.
So he's got his clothes on. So he takes all his clothes off, and he kind of sidesteps across the stage as everyone's watching him, because he believes that he's invisible.
Yeah, that'd be just like it. Yeah, that would be just like it. They'd be like walking along in their ghost suit and just pulling an arm out, and the cloth will fall over whatever it is that they're grabbing, and then they'll just pull it back. And you're like, I didn't take anything. Nobody saw me.
Yeah, so basically there's this gang going around Stockholm dressed as ghosts, covered in white sheets.
I don't believe it, but it's happening, boy. That's crazy.
Okay, you can't imagine, right? Okay, what would happen? Should Scooby-Doo and the gang go along? And of course, Scooby and Shaggy, they manage to fall over somehow, all clumsily. And then the ghost ends up falling on the floor, and something falls over him. And then Velma goes, now let's see who this ghost really is.
And pulls it off.
It's Wilfred Hyde-White. So yeah, the funniest story I think caught my eye this past week, out of all the footy news, and there was a lot of stuff, lots of UFO reports, and people getting drunk and walking around in circles thinking they were on the moon. So they were jumping around thinking they were on the moon. There's sharks have been found in New York City, in a drain. They found a shark.
A shark?
A dead shark, actually, floating in a New York drain.
Okay.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff, but this one really takes the biscuit. This has to take the biscuit.
This better be a big one.
Oh, this is brilliant. This is. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? Is it a Chinese spy drone? Are we getting attacked? No, the Indian Army, okay, believed they were under attack by Chinese spy drones. So this is the Indian military, okay? And they have a military comparable to anything we have right now.
They do, yeah. They have quite a large
They have radar
military.
and stuff. They have lots of. We keep selling loads of stuff.
Mm.
So
they have fairly advanced things.
They thought they were under attack by Chinese spy drones. However, so they saw these bright lights in the sky. They thought they were passing over. Didn't know what they were. They said there was 329 sightings of an unidentified object. 155 thought were in violation of the line that separates India and China. What do you think it was?
I have no idea. How do you mistake a spy drone for something else?
No, it wasn't that. It actually was Jupiter and Venus.
It was what?
It was the planets passing in the sky. Jupiter and Venus, the two brightest stars in the sky. They thought they were Chinese spy drones coming to attack them.
How do you mistake them for spy drones? Have they never seen them before? They're like the brightest stars in the sky, even in their cities. If they were able to see any stars, they'd have been able to see them, surely.
I can't help but chuckle, I want to cry. Yeah, the Indian Army basically eventually approached astronomers, the Indian Institute of Astrophysics, to find out what these mysterious flying objects were in the sky.
And they were planets.
And they discovered they were, in fact, there were Jupiter and there were Venus.
Wow. That must have been... How embarrassed would you be? If you were an army...
You put your country on like the equivalent of DEFCON 5. You think you're under attack and...
Yeah.
It's just a couple of planets passing by in the sky.
Yeah.
Oh, man, you just can't make this shit up. You really can't.
This kind of reminds me of that one that happened a few years ago, and there was that blackout in New York. And people started phoning up the police stations about what those bright lights were in the sky.
No, I know what you're thinking of. You're thinking of the story when San Francisco had a lights out. I think it was 1998 or was it 2004? 2004. That's they had a blackout across the southern part of San Francisco. NASA received like the 3,000 calls asking what the lights were in the sky, and they thought they were under attack. When in fact it was just fucking stars. It was the stars, people.
Yeah, that's probably it.
What is wrong with Americans?
They never turn their lights off, apparently.
Oh yeah, everything must just be light pollution. They've never seen any stars in the sky before.
I know, you're missing out on so much if you can't see any stars in the sky. So those bright things up there are the fireflies.
Anyway, guys, we're going to call it a night here. Hope you guys have had a good time. We covered everything from science, technology, TN, and the topical news that's been out there and it's caught our eye. And we appreciate the fact that you've listened in. Follow us on Twitter. You follow me at Define Kristian.
You can follow me at Sylvia Dragoon.
And you can head us over on Facebook at Rabbit Hole is Reality. Just give it a search on Facebook, you'll find us. And you can head over to our website where you can listen to this and any other episode we've produced so far. And that is rabbitholeisreality.co.uk. You can follow us on iTunes. Don't forget you can add the RSS feed also that is available on the website to any of your media players, so you can have the episodes transferred instantly to your media library, and they're just there, and you can listen to them when you're ready. And hey guys, this has been Kristian Lander.
I'm Sylvia Wicks.
We're heading off. Hope you've had a good night. I'll see you soon.